right now, somewhere inside America's power grid, there's an operator just, staring at a control screen.
Mm-hmm.
And the demand line is rising. The heat map is literally turning red.
Yeah, that's not a hypothetical anymore.
No, it's brutally real. The core question on that operator's mind is, can the physical infrastructure of this country actually keep the lights on for the machines that are, well, supposed to design our future?
Right. What's fascinating here is that it is the ultimate tension we are seeing out there.
Yeah.
The algorithms that are driving this next era of technology, they're moving at the blinding speed of software updates.
Software moves fast. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
But the physical grid they entirely rely on, it still moves at the speed of poured concrete and steel.
And that tension, that exact mismatch, is why we are doing today's deep analysis. We're looking at a fundamental shift in how the modern world operates. Because the biggest bottleneck in the global artificial intelligence race is no longer just, getting your hands on the smartest microchips.
No, not anymore.
It is raw physical electricity. Because AI doesn't live in some mythical cloud.
Right. The cloud is a physical place.
Exactly. It lives in massive, sprawling, heavy industrial buildings.
I mean, the U.S. power grid is essentially the largest single machine ever built by humanity. But you have to remember, it was designed in the 1950s and 60s.
Right, for a completely different world.
Totally. It was built for factories, household appliances, maybe the strain of air conditioners on a really hot summer afternoon.
Sure.
It was absolutely not built to handle thousands of AI servers clustered together, pulling power like small industrial cities.
Right.
AI is literally forcing the largest, most aggressive infrastructure stress test in modern history.
And to really visualize the scale of this for you listening, imagine a hospital that already knows mathematically, on paper, that they are not going to have enough oxygen tanks for next summer's patients.
That's a terrifying thought.
It is. They've counted the beds, they've measured the oxygen flow, and there is a massive glaring gap. That is exactly what is happening to the U.S. power grid right now. We know the math just doesn't add up.
And the trajectory in the numbers is staggering.
Yeah.
I mean, just to give you a sense of scale here.
Yeah, lay out the numbers.
So U.S. data center power use is projected to rise from 176 terawatt hours, which was about 4.4% of total U.S. consumption just a few years ago.
Okay, 4.4%.
Right. And it's jumping to potentially 580 terawatt hours by 2028.
Wait, so what is that as a percentage?
That means data centers alone would consume 12% of the entire nation's electricity.
Wow.
And globally, we're looking at data center demand jumping 165% by 2030. We are officially entering the era of the 1 gigawatt data center.
Okay, we need to pause on that number. 1 gigawatt.
Yeah,
That is the size of a standard nuclear power plant.
exactly.
One single building requiring a dedicated nuclear reactor just to turn on. I
Yeah.
mean, if you walk inside one of these AI facilities, a single advanced server rack pulls 100 kilowatts.
Right.
That one single metal rack equals the power draw of 65 average American homes.
It's unbelievable.
65 homes for one cabinet of computers.
And a single gigawatt data center will have thousands of those racks.
Right. But, you hear these massive valuations for tech companies, right? The billions and trillions of dollars. And okay, let's unpack this.
Sure.
If these tech giants have virtually endless cash, why is there a bottleneck? I mean, why can't they just write a massive check to the local utility today and say, plug us in?
Because you can't buy your way out of physics.
Okay.
And you certainly can't buy your way out of the interconnection queue. Right now, there are 2,300 gigawatts of generation and storage capacity just sitting on a waiting list to connect to the grid.
2,300 gigawatts just waiting.
Just waiting. The tech companies have the money, and the power developers, they want to build the plants, but the grid operators have to perform these exhaustive engineering studies.
Well, what does an engineering study actually entail that makes it take so long? I mean, why years?
Because they have to mathematically simulate the entire region's power flow.
Oh, I see.
Right? Like if you plug a 1 gigawatt data center into the grid, what happens if a transmission wire snaps on a 100-degree Tuesday in July?
Right. Does the whole system collapse?
Exactly. If the grid can't instantly reroute that massive load in a millisecond, an entire county goes dark.
Wow.
So proving that math, acquiring the land permits, and custom ordering high-voltage transformers, it takes 3 to 5 years.
And tech giants building AI cannot wait 5 years.
No. Software time is measured in months, not years.
So if the front door is blocked by a 5-year wait list, these companies are obviously going to find a back door.
They have to.
Which is fundamentally changing the geography of the internet. It used to be that data centers had to be right next to major financial hubs like Dallas or Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
to ensure microsecond speeds for internet traffic.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted your data center close to your user. But AI training is different. We are seeing what's being called the death of latency.
That's a crucial distinction, yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you are training a massive AI model for 6 months, you literally don't care if the data takes 5 extra milliseconds to travel across the country.
Right, the user isn't waiting for a web page to load.
Exactly. You only care about one thing. Can we get the uninterrupted power?
And that desperate search for power is leading to some truly surreal developments,
Oh, absolutely.
like the bizarre revival of the Homer City coal plant in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that story is crazy.
Right. I mean, this was a massive polluting relic of the past that was completely shut down. And now it's being purchased to be transformed into a massive AI campus.
It sounds so counterintuitive, but from a purely infrastructural standpoint, it is brilliant.
Because it's like an abandoned airport. The planes are long gone, the terminal is completely gutted, but the massive concrete runway is still sitting there.
Right.
For these tech giants, that runway is the existing high-capacity grid connections, the heavy-duty substations, and the industrial zoning rights that the coal plant already possessed. By buying a dead coal plant, they get to completely skip that years-long interconnection queue. They just plug right into the old sockets.
The irony is profound, though.
It really is.
I mean, the most futuristic, cutting-edge digital infrastructure humanity has ever created is literally bringing the physical, rusting skeleton of the fossil fuel era back to life.
And if they can't find a dead coal plant with a big enough runway, they're just building their own power plants from scratch.
Yeah, the BYOP strategy.
Bring your own power, exactly. We saw 50 gigawatts of behind-the-meter natural gas generation projects announced for 2025.
50 gigawatts.
Yeah. Planned non-renewable capacity additions surged by 71%.
Wow.
If you look at the global breakdown for 2024, 40% of data center power came from natural gas,
Okay.
24% from renewables, 20% from nuclear, and 15% from coal.
Right.
But hold on, I have to stop and push back on this.
Sure.
How can the biggest tech companies in the world aggressively market their net zero climate pledges while simultaneously triggering a massive boom in natural gas plants?
Well, this raises an important question, and it is arguably the ultimate climate paradox of the AI age.
Right.
The industry genuinely wants clean power. They invest heavily in solar and wind. But solar and wind are fundamentally intermittent.
Because of the weather changes.
Exactly. The sun sets, the wind stops blowing, or a storm rolls in.
And AI cannot tolerate a power dip.
It absolutely cannot. AI training requires 247 uninterrupted baseload power.
Right.
If a massive AI training run, which, by the way, costs tens of millions of dollars to execute,
Right.
if it loses power for even a fraction of a second, the computational error can ruin months of work.
Oh, wow. Just a fraction of a second.
Yes, because renewables cannot guarantee that constant high-density flow without massive battery storage, which at this scale simply does not exist yet. The industry had to make a desperate pivot.
And that pivot was to gas.
First, they pivoted to natural gas as a reliable bridge fuel, and now they were driving a full-blown nuclear renaissance.
The nuclear deals happening right now are wild.
They really are.
I mean, Microsoft signed a historic 20-year deal to actually restart Unit 1 of 3 Mile Island.
Which is huge.
Yeah, it's being rebranded as the Crane Clean Energy Center, and that is backed by a $1 billion loan from the Department of Energy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just them. Amazon struck a 960-megawatt deal with an existing nuclear plant in Pennsylvania, plus a massive 5-gigawatt plan with X-Energy to build brand-new small modular reactors.
All right.
And Google signed a 500-megawatt deal with Kairos Power.
And we have to understand their motivation here. They are turning to nuclear power not because it is fast to build or cheap to finance.
Because it's neither of those things.
Right. Historically, nuclear is famously neither of those things. They are doing it because AI has made constant zero-carbon reliability priceless.
Yes.
But as they try to build these private energy ecosystems, they are slamming into a massive regulatory wall.
Because they can't just build private power utopias and ignore the rest of society.
Yeah.
Look at what happened with Amazon's interconnection agreement at that Susquehanna nuclear plant in Pennsylvania. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FURC, actually stepped in and rejected the deal.
And the mechanism behind that rejection is fascinating.
Yeah, explain that because it's a bit technical.
It all came down to who pays for the backup. So Amazon wanted to draw power directly from the nuclear plant, essentially sitting behind the meter so they wouldn't have to pay standard grid transmission fees.
Right, keeping it private.
Exactly. But they still needed the broader public grid connected as a backup, just in case the nuclear plant ever tripped offline for maintenance.
Right, because you can't run an AI facility with no safety net.
Right.
But if Amazon isn't paying the transmission fees, who is paying to maintain the wires for that safety net?
Everyday ratepayers. The regulators realized that allowing this deal would shift the massive structural costs of maintaining the broader grid onto local households and businesses.
Which feeds directly into the terrifying warning we just saw from PJM Interconnection.
Yeah, that was alarming.
They are the largest grid operator in the country, covering 13 states. They projected that they will be 6 gigawatts short of their reliability requirements by 2027.
And again, let's put that in human terms.
Yeah, 6 gigawatts is enough to power 4.2 million homes. That is 6 nuclear power plants worth of missing electricity.
It's massive.
And this shortage isn't some distant problem, right? It is hitting wallets today.
We are already seeing household electricity prices hit 19 cents per kilowatt hour in 2025.
Which is up how much?
That is a 27% increase just since 2019. Utilities across the country have asked for a record $31 billion in rate hikes to upgrade the grid.
$31 billion. I want you, the listener, to think about your own utility bill for a second. If your monthly power bill jumps 20% next year, and you find out it's largely to pay for the transmission lines feeding an AI supercomputer sitting 20 miles down the highway, how would you react?
That is the exact moment AI stops being a purely abstract Silicon Valley innovation, something you just read about on your phone, and becomes a brutal kitchen table political issue.
It becomes very personal.
We are witnessing the birth of a massive new NMB wire problem, not in my backyard.
Yeah.
And it's not just the electricity rates. Citizens are waking up to the water consumption required for cooling, the constant industrial humming noise of the exhaust fans, and the massive swaths of land being purchased.
The political explosion is already here. I mean, in a recent survey, 75% of Virginia voters explicitly blamed data centers for their rising electricity costs.
75%, that's a huge majority.
And this has escalated to the highest levels of government. We've seen Donald Trump publicly recognizing utility prices as a massive political risk, specifically securing a promise from Microsoft to not let its data centers drive up local power costs. We've seen the White House backing PACs for tech companies to fund new power plants.
Right.
It is becoming a highly charged, unavoidable issue across the entire political spectrum.
And to really understand why these buildings are causing such an immense strain on the local infrastructure, we have to look past the transmission lines.
Okay.
We have to zoom all the way inside the physical data center itself.
Right.
Because the extreme power draw is literally melting down traditional server infrastructure.
Here's where it gets really interesting. For decades, data centers operated on a pretty simple premise.
Right. Standard air conditioning.
Exactly. They used heavy-duty air conditioning known as CRAC units to blow freezing cold air down the aisles between the servers.
Which works perfectly fine when a standard server rack uses 10 or 15 kilowatts of power.
Right. But the new AI chips, like NVIDIA's Blackwell architecture, have a massive density problem. A single Blackwell GPU generates 1,000 watts of heat all by itself.
Just one chip.
Just one. When you pack dozens of those into specialized racks like the GB200 NVL72, you are suddenly hitting 120 to 132 kilowatts in a single metal cabinet.
It's just staggering heat.
Trying to cool a 132 kilowatt rack with blowing air is like trying to cool down an active volcano by turning on a ceiling fan in your living room.
That's a great way to put it.
It defies the laws of thermodynamics.
Which is forcing the death of air cooling and the rapid rise of direct-to-chip liquid cooling.
So they're using liquid now?
Yes, because liquid is roughly 3,000 times more efficient at transferring heat than air. So they are literally plumbing the servers, pumping specialized fluids directly over the silicon chips to absorb the heat.
Wow. But
it goes beyond just the cooling. To handle the intense electrical load without melting the cables, they are having to shift the entire building's architecture to 800-volt direct current power systems.
Why do they have to change the voltage? I mean, what does that actually do?
Because of resistance. If you try to push that much amperage through traditional alternating current cable...
AC cables.
Right. The cables either have to be impossibly thick, or they generate so much friction and heat that you lose massive amounts of energy just moving the electricity from the wall to the server.
Oh, that makes sense.
By shifting to 800-volt direct current, you reduce the current, shrink the cables, and drastically cut the heat loss.
Okay.
So an AI data center is no longer just a cold warehouse for computers. It is essentially a heavy industrial refinery that has to manage extreme fluid dynamics, high-voltage electrical engineering, and severe thermal exhaust.
But pumping massive amounts of chemical fluids through a building full of electronics has triggered a brand new environmental crisis.
It has.
Because a lot of these specialized coolants historically relied on PFAS, per, and polyfluoroalkyl substances.
The forever chemicals.
Exactly. They are widely known as forever chemicals because they don't break down in nature. And now that massive chemical suppliers are exiting the PFAS market due to intense regulatory pressure, there is a frantic scramble in the industry to invent new bio-based coolants.
Because if a pipe bursts in one of these massive facilities, you can't have thousands of gallons of forever chemicals washing into the local water table.
No, that would be an absolute disaster.
Exactly. The environmental risks are shifting, which is fundamentally changing how the industry measures its own success.
How so?
Historically, data centers obsessed over a metric called PUE, power usage effectiveness. It was all about how efficiently they used electricity.
Okay, PUE.
But now, because traditional evaporative cooling systems can use millions of gallons of water a day, the critical metric is shifting to WUE, water usage effectiveness.
Wow. So water is the new bottleneck too.
Yes. Water consumption has become such a massive political liability, especially in drought-prone areas, that operators are being pushed toward closed-loop liquid systems that don't constantly evaporate fresh local water.
Okay, so let's put this all together.
Sure.
The modern AI data center is basically an industrial refinery. It requires miles of liquid cooling pipes, heavily reinforced concrete floors to hold the physical weight of all that fluid, and massive 800-volt electrical gear.
That's the baseline now, yeah.
If that is the new standard, what happens to all the old data centers?
The ones built 5 or 10 years ago.
Yeah. If those older buildings are still full of corporate clients and generating cash flow today, why is the real estate side of the industry panicking?
Because they realize they are holding what is rapidly becoming a stranded asset.
Stranded asset?
Yes. Legacy data centers built for those older 8 to 15 kilowatt air-cooled racks might have paying tenants right now, but their terminal value, what the building will be worth in 10 years, is plunging.
Oh.
They simply do not have the structural integrity to handle the physical weight of liquid cooling systems. They lack the massive plumbing required, and their electrical panels cannot handle the intense power spikes of AI training.
But can't they just, upgrade the building? Like take a weekend, turn off the servers, reinforce the floor, and swap out the air conditioners for liquid pipes?
They absolutely cannot, and that is what the industry calls the colocation hostage problem.
Colocation hostage problem. Okay.
Right. If you own a legacy data center, you are likely hosting a major bank's disaster recovery servers, or critical telecom network gear, or a hospital's database.
Stuff that cannot go offline.
Exactly. Those legacy tenants have contracts demanding 99.999% uptime.
It's like trying to rip out and replace all the plumbing in an apartment building while the tenants are actively taking showers. You just can't do a hot retrofit.
That is a perfect way to look at it.
Yeah.
You cannot be welding massive coolant pipes and using heavy machinery to upgrade high-voltage switchgear while a hospital's life-saving database is running in a server rack just a few feet away.
Right.
The vibration alone could crash the hard drives.
So the entire global market of internet real estate is aggressively fracturing into two distinct tiers.
You're right, a massive split.
On one side, you have Tier 1, AI-native premium facilities. These are built from day one with reinforced floors, liquid cooling, and massive power agreements.
The industrial refineries.
Exactly. And on the other side, you have Tier 2, legacy zombie facilities. They're the Walking Dead. They produce cash flow today from older companies, but once those leases expire, they are structurally obsolete for the AI-driven future. It turns out not all megawatts are created equal anymore.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the stakes of this transition become incredibly clear.
Yeah.
We are looking at a required $1.4 trillion utility capital expenditure through the year 2030 just to upgrade the U.S. grid to handle all of this new demand.
1.4 trillion.
Yes. The AI industry must find a way to secure the immense power it needs without making everyday households feel like they are subsidizing billion-dollar tech companies.
Which means, as a society, we are staring down two very different possible futures.
Yeah, two very different paths.
The first is what experts call a managed transition. In this scenario, there are highly coordinated grid upgrades. Big tech pays its fair share of the transmission costs. Advanced nuclear plants and small modular reactors actually get approved and built on time.
Which would be ideal.
Right. And data centers utilize massive on-site battery storage to act as shock absorbers for the grid, giving power back during peak hours rather than just acting as parasites. It's a practical, unified solution.
But the alternative is an unmanaged crisis.
And what does that look like?
This is the scenario where power demand drastically outpaces our ability to build supply. Grid operators miss their reliability targets, resulting in rolling blackouts during extreme weather.
Which people will definitely not tolerate.
No, they won't. We see extreme utility bill spikes, with some projections suggesting up to 57% increases in localized areas like Virginia.
57%.
Yes. The political backlash from angry voters would become so intense that local zoning boards and state governments would simply slam the brakes, halting AI infrastructure development entirely in certain regions.
So what's this all mean for you, listening right now? It means the future of artificial intelligence isn't going to be decided by a brilliant coder sitting in a laboratory in Silicon Valley.
No, it's not.
It is going to be decided by local town zoning boards, the permitting of high-voltage power lines, and the chemistry of bio-based coolants.
Absolutely.
The next great global geopolitical race isn't a race to design the smartest microchip. It is a desperate, highly physical race for raw watts.
And resolving that tension, the friction between our seemingly limitless digital ambition and our very limited physical concrete infrastructure, is the true frontier of this technological era.
Which leaves you with a critical question to consider as you look at the power lines outside your own window. Should big tech be forced to pay the full multi-trillion-dollar cost of rebuilding the power grid to support their products, or is an AI-powered economy a public good that we all need to help fund through our utility bills? Think about that grid operator we talked about at the beginning, staring at the red heat map, watching the demand line rise. Ultimately, we all have to decide who pays to keep the lights on.